All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. We're gonna start this off with a little exercise. So everyone start clapping. Clap, 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 clap. Faster, 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 faster. Now stop. Now say woo. Okay, that helped kind of break the barrier here. My name is Nick Brown. I'm the CEO of Glapit, which is a destination creation company. We build communities and brand cities that attract millennials. I'm super excited here to be part of TechChicago Day to talk about the future of emerging tech, hosted by P33 and World Business Chicago. We have some interesting participants from the life science space, from the product development space, from the consumer goods space, and also from the tech intellectual research space. I can do a lot of explaining about who they are, what they do in their journey, but let's start with Melissa here. You can go right on into it.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Nick. Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Lederer. I am the Chief Experience Officer at mHub. How many of you know what mHub is? All right, that's pretty good. I could go on and make you raise your hands on other things, but I won't. So I've been with mHub since its founding, almost 7 years. Prior to that, just as a little background, I was part of the founding team of 1871, and then Matter. So I've been part of this entrepreneurial ecosystem for the last almost probably 12 to 15 years. Have a real bug and passion for supporting entrepreneurship and kind of disruption from early stage innovation. But mHub is an innovation center for hard tech and manufacturing. So what does that mean? Physical products, anything that are physical products. We have, if you've been to our space at 965 West Chicago, a co-working and lab space with about $6 million worth of prototyping equipment. We surround entrepreneurs with resources to help them be successful and accelerate their path to commercialization of new solutions. And in this fall, we're moving to a new facility, so hopefully you'll all come visit, at 240 North Ashland. So a great new facility that'll really accelerate what we're trying to do in climate and energy technologies, medical devices, sustainable manufacturing, and real disruption in manufacturing in general.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzette McKinney. I am a principal and the director of life sciences at Sterling Bay. We are a vertically integrated commercial real estate development firm, and I lead the life sciences division there, where we build the spaces and the places for life sciences and healthcare entrepreneurs and innovators to do their work and grow their companies. Let's see, my background, I started out in the laboratory doing scientific research when I was in college, and then spent about 20 years in the public health and healthcare executive leadership space before coming to Sterling Bay. So it's great to be here with you all today. Thanks so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Woods, the founder of thepopup.com. It's an immersive, curated secondhand store in the West Loop. You can find us at 208 North Green Street, the intersection of Green and Lake. I also work at my day job at Google. I'm an HR manager supporting the verification space in visas in the Americas. That's a little bit about my background. What I'm doing at the pop-up is basically ensuring that consumers can have interactive experiences, whether they're at home on their phones or live in person. We use a lot of emerging technology for live shopping. So that's a little bit about my background.
Hey everybody, I am Michelangelo D'Agostino. I'm the VP of Machine Learning at TGIS. By training, I am a physicist, and I kind of made my way out of academia in sort of a roundabout way. I was doing postdoc research out at Argonne National Lab and left in 2011 to go work on President Obama's re-election campaign, doing data analytics work. And since then, I've been starting and leading data science and machine learning teams at startups around Chicago. So spent some time at Braintree and Venmo, spent some time at Civis Analytics, which is a company that spun out of the Obama campaign. Worked in e-commerce with Sam Yegan at ShopRunner. And then currently I am at TGIS. So TGIS is a fintech company in Chicago. We make a platform that helps financial investors research companies. And in particular for me, we sit on top of this mountain of text data. So think about CEOs talking about their company on earnings calls, investors doing due diligence interviews. And so we have this mountain of text data, and my job is to build products and apply machine learning on top of that data.
So for the next 35 minutes here, we want to dive into it. We want to talk about the good, bad, and ugly of future of emerging technologies here. A lot of times we're hearing about AI this, AI that, some machine learning models, all that type of jazz, which is going to impact the workplace. There was a study with Goldman Sachs said 300 million jobs will be impacted by AI, fostering a new community of emerging technologies. What are some new and emerging technologies in your industry that you're seeing, and how and why is that important for people to know about them? Anyone can jump right in.
Is everyone looking at me because I'm the AI guy on the panel, I guess?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I can start this. I mean, so I've been working with data and doing machine learning for a long time before like people wanted to call it AI. So I don't even love using the term AI. And now we're living in this moment, right? Like the ChatGPT moment where, you know, everyone and their mother is talking about this stuff. So I guess I would just say that like, I think two things are simultaneously true. I think we are riding this unbelievable giant hype cycle right now. But underneath that, there is something real and true and probably seriously disruptive there. And I think this has been happening for a long time. I mean, just what we can do with data and what we can do with machine learning. This is a transformation that's been happening probably for the last 10 years. And I think what's different about the last couple of years is probably two things. One, just our advances with what we can do with natural language and text. I think that's really gone through the roof.
Can you explain what natural language means for everyone that doesn't know what that means?
Yeah, so natural language processing is sort of the field of machine learning or data science that has to do with text or sort of the written word or speech, and computers' ability to understand the content of what's in speech or written documents, and then also recently to start generating new and novel text and speech. So that's, I think, really the second breakthrough, I would say, is that this the release of new tools that are making it easier for all sorts of different people to build with these technologies. And we can talk more about that in a bit, I guess, and how disruptive it's going to be. But yeah.
So I guess I would just jump in and say, you know, in my professional life, I really sit at the intersection of healthcare and real estate. And so first, a word about AI. What I'm seeing is that AI is creating the capability for us to do what we do a lot better. I mean, obviously, the ability to have better, more accurate data analytics, predictive analytics, if you will, to help us understand what the trends are in the real estate environment, where those trends are going, better customer client experience. I think AI is helping us with that. But in terms of new emerging technologies, and now I'm speaking really from the healthcare space, I mean, obviously, I think both AI and any new emerging technologies should be helping us to deliver better patient care. I feel as though I do the work that I do because those breakthrough technologies in healthcare and in the life sciences, I'm creating the spaces for those entrepreneurs and those innovators to discover these new and emerging technologies. So it's difficult for me to answer the question about what are those emerging technologies now, because I don't think that they've necessarily been created yet. But that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that I can sort of pave the way a bit, if you will, for innovators like all of you to come forward and create those tools and technologies that are going to help us better deliver patient care and solve some of the most challenging healthcare issues that we experience as a society.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So totally agree with that. You know, in manufacturing in particular, I mean, machine learning and AI has been around for years. I think that the adoption has been slow, but that is accelerating dramatically as it's becoming more understood, more accessible. But it's really about the data, right? And the ability to get at good data, because garbage in is garbage out, and how you ultimately think to use that. And so it's not just like, hey, let's have AI. But when we think from manufacturing perspective, it's also thinking about how do you actually extract that data and drive real data sets that can make real decision making in real time. And so from a manufacturing perspective, when you're thinking about like sensor data and, you know, Internet of Things, which you hear a lot about, and how do we think about getting those types of technologies implemented. MHub is really all about hard tech, right? We use that word in my vernacular every single day, a million times a day, but the idea of the intersection between software and hardware. How do you make a device smarter so that it can get at that data? And that's really what I think manufacturers are thinking about, and how do you implement that across an entire organization so that you can see a collective view to make those smart decisions that I think improve efficiency and cost saving, et cetera.
A lot of great points already made. From a retail consumer goods standpoint, I would just say it's going to help from a sustainability perspective, right? If we have the data and we can know what to buy, what consumers want, there's going to be a lot less waste, a lot more meaningful experiences for customers as they come into our stores, as they buy your products. So not to pile on all the good things that were already mentioned, but I would just say from a consumer packaged goods standpoint, I think it's just going to make more meaningful experiences. We're going to have less waste.
So what do you all think are some specific strategies or tips we can all learn in this room to adapt to these new emerging technologies happening? Is it a management perspective? Is it an individual creator's perspective? How can we adapt to this new change that's happening?
Well, I think one of the most important things in terms of adaptation is, first of all, you have to educate yourselves and understand not just what the technology is, but what the technology can do for you and for your business. And, personally, I believe in finding the good in everything that we do. There's been so much talk about AI, both good talk about what people do with AI to do good, but also what people could be doing with AI to do bad. So I think as business leaders, as business owners, as innovators, we should be doing everything that we can do to make sure that those emerging technologies are used for good, and to strategically identify how the new technology can help you do your work and manage your business a lot better.
Yeah, I would just jump on that. I think the best thing you can do is start playing with these things now and trying to figure out how can this perhaps make my life easier, make my job easier, so that you can understand both that and then what the drawbacks and the limitations are. So, I see this all over my company. People at all different levels and all different job functions are like, hey, I have this idea for how I could use ChatGPT to do X. ChatGPT is free, Bing is free, Bard is free. All these tools are free and available for you to start playing around with. And as you do that, you start to learn, actually, this does make this dumb part of my job I don't really like 1,000 times easier. Or I tried to do X, but it told me something that really wasn't true, and I can maybe I could make that better. Maybe I have to live with that drawback. But really, the only way to start to adapt is to play around with it. And I think unlike some earlier versions of disruptive technologies, these are easy to use and to play with. Natural language, it's our natural interface, right? We speak, we talk, we write. Everyone can do that, and that's the way you interact with these tools. And so I think everyone should just try them out and understand what they can do.
To build on what Michelangelo was talking about, it's a tool, right? So, taking what you already have, taking the information you have, using the tool, getting familiar with it, it's going to take some time. I think they're going to work out, a lot of the issues that are coming up with, ghost languages and those types of things. So I just think in a matter of time, the more you lean into it on the beginning, the early phases, and are early adopter, the more beneficial it could be for you later when it becomes more mainstream.
So I'll just add that I think a lot of you that are here are probably one step ahead of what most are, right? You're here, you're curious, you're already involved in a lot of these technologies. From a self-serving perspective, I guess, MHub and other communities where there is sort of this collaborative nature, this open innovation center, there are lots and lots of places where you can go and participate and learn and sort of soak in some of these technologies. And I think depending upon where you fall on the spectrum, opportunities to engage with others and solve problems together and work with technologies is just, what do you want to do, right? I mean, if you're interested in being in an innovative company, there's lots out there that you can, I think, gravitate toward today. And so we're really all about the way that you get to learn about technologies is learn from others. The way that innovators learn from one another is how you kind of fail fast and discover things more quickly. And the ability to sort of, I think, collaborate is for us, obviously, very much a part of the ethos of what we do at MHub.
Gotcha. So basically what I'm hearing is the top three things or the top 3 strategies we can use to explore these different opportunities is, one, educate ourselves, whether we can educate it at their M-Hub or the life science institution. 2 is explore and play. So if you have friends or communities or something of that nature, just say this first Friday, instead of going to happy hour, we're going to do idea hour or whatever that might be. And then 3 is just, I don't know, keep reiterating. With that being said, there was I think Kevin said it was a tool. And when we think about technology and things popping up, it can be a good thing or a bad thing. There was a study that came out that the cost of segregation in Chicago is $4.4 billion by the Metropolitan Planning Committee and Urban Institute. When we think about creating technologies and emerging technologies for the future, it can be used for good, bad, or ugly. What ethical, social, environmental, or cultural issues everyone in this room should be thinking about when they're messing around with emerging technologies?
I'll start with that one. Look, if you look around the room, there's a lot of diversity in the room, right? It's a heavy word, but if you look around, everyone's different. So I think if you're at this conference, you have a technical capability, you have a passion for these things. You should also, assume that responsibility to make, decisions as we build essentially what our future is going to be, to make sure it's an equitable place for everyone. We're just talking about AI and some of the tools that are available. There's a lot of money to be made being an early adopter or figuring out how to finesse the system early on. Not everyone has that same seat at the table, right? So I think it's incumbent upon all of us. It's all of our responsibility to just be mindful of those things, make positive decisions. But we could talk for an hour probably on all of the ways things could be better. But I just think, again, if you look around the room, you leave this conference, just keep that in the back of your mind that we all have a responsibility to, use these, this new information, these tools to make sound decisions. It's my 2 cents.
What about from the data perspective? Where is this data coming from? Is it coming from my social security number? How are we processing this information to create the new avatar or the new management system for our financial models, or manipulating financial models?
Yeah, maybe I'll wrap that into a broader answer about some of the social implications, I guess. So, I think right now we're hearing a lot of AI is going to destroy the world, and then you have folks saying AI is going to save the world. And I think the answer is somewhere in the middle and probably to be determined. I fall on the optimistic side. I think as a basic scientist myself, I think there are a lot of really exciting applications for AI and drug discovery and basic biology, material science that can help us with energy problems. I think there are a lot of incredibly exciting potential societal impacts there. On the other side, and getting to your question of what data goes into this stuff, there are all sorts of potential problems about what kinds of biases are embedded into in particular, models that generate images or models that deal with language. Where did that data come from in the first place? What kind of biases are embedded in there? If you ask these image generation models to draw a picture of a doctor, there are certain biases that are encoded in there. And I think it's incumbent on all of us, both who use this stuff and who build it, to start thinking about that. And I think researchers are thinking about that, trying to figure out what are the biases that are in here, how do we mitigate biases, in sort of more classical machine learning where models are being used to decide who gets loans, who gets insurance, who gets access to resources. There are whole research communities and conferences dedicated to understanding, how to understand what models are doing and how to prevent certain biases from creeping in. I think there's room for regulation there as well. But it is a real problem. We just have to start to tackle it in earnest, I guess.
I think, my thoughts, I want to go back to what Kevin said, just talking about the diversity that's in this room. And, in my world, innovation happens because diverse people come together and they collaborate, and beautiful, wonderful things come out of that collaboration. And, to the point about this report, the cost of segregation, and, the fact that this Midwest region loses $4.5 billion a year just because of that segregation, says to me there needs to be more of that diversity where we are utilizing these technologies, where we are innovating. And, it's interesting that you asked the question, because I was struck by a report that I saw on the news this weekend. Some of you may have seen it, but there's a nonprofit organization here in Chicago called My Block, My Hood, My City, and they hosted a downtown day. And they brought 1,000 kids from across the city of Chicago who had never been downtown.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm like, just think about that. 1,000 kids who live in this city have never even come downtown. I mean, that is segregation at its worst, in my opinion. So for all of us that are business leaders, business owners, innovators, entrepreneurs, what I would say is we should all be thinking about what we can do on our own as individuals or even within our companies to give opportunities to someone, even if it's just one person who hasn't had that type of opportunity in the past. And it doesn't have to be anything big. You know, you could go to your local elementary school and talk to kids about innovation or tech or whatever your line of business is, or take a high school student who lives in your neighborhood and give them a summer internship, just for the sake of opening their eyes to what you're doing in your professional life. You might light a spark that will change the trajectory of their lives. And I think it is real ways that we can touch people in their everyday lives to expand their horizons that is really going to make a difference in breaking down all of the systemic barriers that create the segregation that then creates this huge economic loss. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, if our economy is not thriving, there will not be room for all of us that are innovating and starting companies and trying to run successful businesses.
I was going to ask, like, you know, with the Internet of Things and product development and the digital divide, you know, how are we thinking about making cities more inclusive by utilizing emerging technologies?
I mean, that's really hard to go after, Suzette. I'm just kidding. Well said, and I fully agree, and I think that's part of it.
Because you've built plenty of communities. You built
Yeah.
1871 community, M-Hub community,
Yeah.
Matter community. You're the community lady.
But let's be honest, manufacturing has not necessarily been recognized as a very diverse
True.
sector, right? I mean, it's traditionally been white men,
Yep.
older white men. And you're right, and it's hard. And I think if I look back at 7 years ago to when we opened the doors to what it looks like today, it is much more of a cross-section of Chicago, based on efforts we've made, based on decisions we've made, based on programs we've launched, but there's a ton more to do. There's a ton more to do. And part of our decision to move where we did, the building is at Fulton and Ashland. It's in an opportunity zone. It creates much more access to the south and west side. We're creating programs that hopefully will drive more support, but like we have a long way to go and a lot more that we're thinking about, and we need the ecosystem to feel the same way and to support, you know, really opening the community so that we see that cross-section much more equalized, right?
That's very true. I think, like, you know, when you hear about Chicago as a second city or a flyover city compared to the coast, from you all and your perspective, I think Chicago is the epitome of culture. A lot of people create things and they move to the coast because Chicago is have a sustainable mindset of thinking here. What do you all think is Chicago's biggest advantage in your industry and how we can kind of use that to build a hub for that here in Chicago?
I'll go first on that one. In my industry, the creative industry, retail, consumer packaged goods, I think Chicago is the best place because it's such a small, big city. The best, my friends and I always talk about the best thing about Chicago is if you sully your name, everyone knows. So you have to do a really good job of being thorough, being a good person, so it kind of weeds out kind of all the riffraff. To that end, I would say, I think, hey, you know, if you're building a business, if you're building a company, if you're looking for talent, this is a great place to do it. And I do want to go back to one of the previous points that we were talking about, which was, hey, you know, the word community is such a strong word because everyone should be involved, right? Like, sometimes, you know, as a black dude, we always hear those things like, oh, it was run by, you know, old, you know, white, you know, but we need those white dudes to like help us because they, you know, So it's not like an exclusive thing. We don't want to like leave anyone out in the future. It's more about how do we learn from what we've done well in the past and take those ingredients and help us build what's better for the future.
And to dive more into that consumer side of things, rest in peace, Virgil Abloh.
Yes.
We have Virgil Abloh, we have Joe Fresh Goods, we have all these amazing creators and
Yes.
people that make products and lines around the corner buying their products here. I think they opened up a Supreme store here in Chicago. What makes Chicago so good for people creating products like that?
Just because we always haven't had the opportunity to get those things out. I think anytime you give someone from here an opportunity in those spaces, the creative industry, they go on to do great things. So it's just a rich place for talent. Everyone here is really hungry.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In the life sciences, I tell people all the time, Chicago has all of the characteristics that make for a great life sciences market. The STEM talent is here, the world-class universities, research universities are here, world-class healthcare systems are here. There's VC funding here. Now, we want there to be more VC funding here, but
True.
we do have funding here. What we have been missing all these years, really historically from a life sciences perspective, is a sufficient availability of high quality lab space for these companies to continue their research and refine their products so that their companies can grow and hopefully, they reach that unicorn status and can have an exceptional exit. But I think from a life sciences perspective, Chicago has caught on. And now we're beginning to see more of that high quality lab space come on board. I think entrepreneurs, even on the coast, are starting to see, oh, wait a minute, I can have a high quality of life at a lower expense in Chicago than what I can have in other places, So I think from a life sciences perspective, Chicago has a lot going for it. And I think there's just more to come.
So you said lab spaces. So that potentially could be an opportunity to transform retail spaces into lab spaces through AI and emerging technologies, or what? It's a lot of fabrication.
Let's
around
distinguish. So, retail spaces could be transformed relatively easily into dry lab spaces. As long as the technology infrastructure is there for the type of data and information exchange that's necessary, it is very difficult to transform a retail or an office space into a wet lab facility. And that's just because there are a lot more technical requirements that come along with a laboratory. Depending on the type of research that you're doing, the type of drug or other product that you're developing, that building or that facility may need to have, obviously, higher level air handling, sometimes vibrational requirements. So it's more difficult.
I just want to add to a couple of things. I remember Rahm Emanuel used to say all the time, every time he spoke about the value of Chicago, it was like, there's not one sector that represents more than 12% of the economy. There's something to be said about the fact that there's such a wide breadth of industries that are here that creates for this sort of melting pot of innovation, ideation, technology, expertise that I think also makes it a phenomenal city for innovation and for being an entrepreneur, because you've just got this outside-in perspective from so many different perspectives. That's one big key. I also think that the Midwest, my experience has been that the nature of people here give back and they actually want to see others succeed. Or it's not necessarily dog-eat-dog like San Francisco may be. That's what I've seen. And this idea that the city of big shoulders, but the idea that obviously your success, then hopefully you turn around and help somebody else and bring them forward. And I really do believe that at least the tech ecosystem that I've seen here has very much believes in that.
Yep, I'll just give an answer real quick from the software kind of perspective. I agree. I think this is the kind of friendliest, most welcoming community. I grew up in Chicago, but spent time on both coasts before I came back. And I think people here are more welcoming and more willing to help than I've seen in a lot of other places. But my answer, I think, is a very stereotypical one, which is like, we just need to keep all of the great people and the human capital that we have here. The stories are, legendary about all of the people from Illinois who've gone to start giant companies elsewhere. And I think it happens less. There wasn't this tech community when I grew up. Like thinking about staying in Chicago and doing something technical when I was younger wasn't a thing. It feels like it's a thing now, but we still lose great people. And I think we just need to try to, as a community, create as many interesting opportunities and fight really hard to keep as many great people here as we can, because we have them. Like we don't have to attract them in the first place. Like we have them, we just have to keep them.
Keeping people here, how can we use technology to help keep people here? Is it more of like you thinking financial incentives, or are you thinking about like building more software services or opportunities for people to come and create jobs here? What is your thoughts about that?
I think it has to be access to investment capital, right? You're welcome, Marcy. I know that's what you wanted me to say. Really, right? I mean, we need to bring more capital to the table, and I think that I do think there are more VCs and investors that are outside of our region who are looking at Chicago, and I think that more is coming and has eyes on Chicago, and I think P33 and WBC and the Venture Summit and all these different things are bringing more recognition and visibility, but I think that's going to keep people here, right? I mean, you're going to build a business and then you can't actually fundraise. You're going elsewhere or you're going to fold.
That's very true. And I also want to add, if you think about this question from everything that you've done in your life and where you're at now and like what you're seeing is happening to your industry, what's the biggest message that you want everyone in this audience to learn from you? And then we'll open it up to questions.
We shouldn't all jump at once. Well, yeah, that's a tough one. I guess I would go with something that I always tell my daughter. My daughter just graduated from college, and you know, the job market is tough right now. So she's applying to a lot of places, doing tons of interviews, and she's getting lots of no's. And I tell her, no simply means next opportunity. Don't let anyone discourage your dreams. Don't let anyone discourage your plans. Sometimes people just can't see the vision that you have for yourself. And sometimes you may be working in a place where people may doubt your ability, but you don't have to doubt yourself. If you are confident in what you are doing, you're confident in the education that you've obtained for yourself, and you know what your dreams and your plans and your vision are, go for it, man. Like, just don't let anyone discourage your dreams and your plans that you have for your life.
For me, it's speed. You know, don't wait to start beginning to do what you're going to do, right? An LLC, I think, costs $175. That's like a good night out or a pair of sneakers at my store. So you can, you know, if you have an idea.
I've been to his store, it's true.
I walked by the store. It's very true.
I say all that to say, like, you know, it doesn't cost that much to like begin to do something, and that's like step one. So speed, not waiting. And earlier we were talking about emerging technologies, but we're talking about AI. Like, again, don't wait. Start to incorporate some of those things now, and you know, you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? You know, so you can learn things as you go, as long as you're open to it.
Yeah, mine is, I think, a little bit related to that, which is that you just have to get used to the idea of being a lifelong learner and reinventing yourself every handful of years. I mean, truly gone are the days where you learn stuff in school and then you apply that stuff in school for the rest of your life in your career. Things are only going faster, and you know, I was interviewing a candidate the other day, and I was joking that like he's three years out of college, and the stuff that he learned in college is already kind of irrelevant and very different because everything has changed that quickly. And you can look at that and you can be afraid, or you can look at that and be like, this is really awesome. I love learning new things. It's really fun. And like for my whole life, I just enjoy learning things and teaching myself new things. And I think the more you have that growth mindset, the more successful you're going to be.
I'll give one. I was going to say speed, but you stole it, so I'm going to come up with a different one. I think that for me, and what we kind of talk to entrepreneurs about is like, don't be afraid to fail. Right? Failure is it's frankly more a badge of honor than anything else, and I don't think that it has to like be something that sets you back. It actually can set you much further forward. Entrepreneurship is really hard. Technology and kind of disruption is really hard, and so, you know, I guess it comes back to sort of trying and learning, and that really means it's okay to fail, because from that usually a new opportunity presents itself. And that's what I really try and think about and push forward with as well.
So it sounds like it's all about the mindset here. I want to add a little bit about myself too as well. So my father was the first African-American basketball player at Texas A&M. And before he died, he taught me there are three types of people in this world. They're A players, these individuals, whether they have the skill set or not, they get into the game to want to make some shit happen. Then there are B players. These individuals are great co-founders, great employees, great advisors. They want to help you get from point A to point B. And then there are C players. These individuals are the managers. They want to manage to make sure you can make something happen. You have to figure out what player you want to be, the A player, the B player, the C player, and apply that to the technology or the resources that you want to go into. And then you can kind of create something that's meaningful in life, because you all have to work together. We have about a few more minutes left here, and we're going to open it up for questions for the audience, because we really want to get some feedback and hear from your perspectives on maybe some questions you have about different emerging technologies, or specifically for the participants up here. Anyone interested? Want to go for that?
Hi, guys. Thank you guys for all of the information that you provided in the different sectors that you're in. I appreciate it. My question is specifically for Kevin. I love the fact that you have a store. I was looking at the website while we were sitting here talking, and I saw that you guys have amazing clothes, but it just you just have the size there versus specifics, either a size chart or a technical tool that allows consumers to shop accurately online. How do you covered sustainability, but then if someone is shopping online, how are you ensuring that their clothes are not purchased and then they have to return it because it's not their size?
So in my business, it's a little bit complicated because I truly curate what goes into the store. So it's not like I go to a brand and say, this season I want these pieces, here's my budget, I want all these pieces to then get them at wholesale and resell them. So I'm truly like the tastemaker. I go out and kind of tell the people that come to my store, these are the things that you should be buying, or these are things that you don't know about. So I would say in my space, how I relate that to emerging technology, it's creating an immersive experience. So one way would be, like in my store, we have a 360 camera, live streaming the shop 24/7. So if someone in Brazil wants to purchase an item, but they're uncomfortable because they don't know who's behind the website, they can interact with us real time, have a conversation with us in Portuguese, then we ship the item to them. So I try to create a different experience in a space that's normally pretty traditional, which is like retail, if that makes sense.
Kevin gonna make me go home and log on to the website just so I can get that 360 experience.
Anyone else? Another question?
Hey, y'all. Thank you again for being here on this panel. In the world of emerging tech, I feel like city governments play a big role in, how they enable community players to be at the forefront of technology. Are there some city initiatives that you all are excited about that you see helping Chicago become more at the forefront of emerging tech?
City initiatives.
Are there any city initiatives or something that's happening within the city government that are kind of putting emerging tech to the forefront? Well, we're actually launching an AI festival, think like South by Mixed with Art Basel, that you can explore the different possibilities of your artwork. So like AI generated artwork, music generated work, talks and discussions. So that might be a potential opportunity, but inside of hidden warehouses, because there's a lot of vacancies here in Chicago, which is a great placemaking opportunity to bring more talent and more experimental activity to Chicago, and hopefully we can kind of lock them into these other roles here that they have spanning Chicago.
I mean, I think through World Business Chicago and P33 here, this is an example of that, right? Like convening the community to talk about this and network and learn from one another. The Venture Summit, which comes out of WBC, is a way I think we talked about. Like, I feel very good about watching over the last few years the progress they've made in now sector by sector venture events that are bringing venture from around the country here. I think the city has been incredibly supportive of MHub and what we're trying to do and the facilitating of this acquisition of this building. So I do think that they are or have been keenly focused on driving innovation and technology. It's a new administration, so I think we're going to see, where that leads. But I hope and believe that it'll still be on the forefront is supporting, these types of initiatives.
And one other thing, pre-pandemic, the city did sponsor groups of college kids to come on trips through Chicago to talk to companies, learn about the tech ecosystem here, kind of with the idea of keeping good technical talent in Chicago. And I don't know if that still happens, but pandemic shook everything up. But they at least used to do that.
And sort of along those same lines, speaking of World Business Chicago, they also do a number of delegations to other cities where they curate a group of business leaders. If the theme of the delegation is tech, then they'll convene a group of tech leaders and they go to certain cities and talk up Chicago, why it's so great, how it helps that industry, and like tools and opportunities and resources that are available for companies that either want to relocate to Chicago or establish a presence in Chicago.
Well, I want to give everyone give a round of applause for the audience here, for the participants here. Thank you for your time and insights and resources. And we will talk to you all soon.